She had nothing. No home, no hope, just a baby and a prayer. He had everything. Power, wealth, a heart of ice. One desperate plea on a plane, one dangerous choice. The economy class seat felt like a cage. Isabella Hale pressed her palm against her swollen belly, trying to breathe through the tightness in her chest. The plane hummed around her. Voices, laughter, the rustle of magazines. But all of it felt distant, like she was drowning underwater. 21 years old, pregnant, alone. Her phone sat dark in her lap. The last message still burned in her mind. "Your mother passed away this morning. I'm so sorry, Bella." She'd read it just before boarding. No time to turn back, no time to collapse. Just forward. Always forward. But forward to what? Her husband was dead. Her mother was dead. And the baby inside her, this fragile, innocent life, had no father to claim it, no family to welcome it. No one even knew she'd married Nathan. They'd done it in secret. A quiet ceremony, just the two of them and a registry office that didn't ask questions. 3 days later, he was gone. A car accident. Sudden. Brutal. She'd been too shocked to grieve properly. Too terrified to tell anyone the truth. Now, the debt collectors were circling. Nathan's debts. Debts she didn't even know existed. Lakhs upon lakhs of rupees she couldn't pay. And if anyone discovered she'd married him without telling her family, without any official ceremony, the scandal would destroy what little dignity she had left. "I have nothing." The thought was a knife twisting in her gut. She closed her eyes, but tears slipped through anyway. Then pain, sharp, sudden, like something breaking inside her. Isabella gasped, her hand flying to her stomach, her vision blurred, the cabin tilted. No, not now, not here. But the pain didn't listen. It spread, hot and vicious, radiating through her body. Her breath came in short, desperate bursts. She needed help. She needed someone. Her hand shot out blindly, grabbing the arm of the person beside her. She gripped it tight, her nails digging into fabric and skin. The man turned. Slowly, Isabella's tear-filled eyes lifted and froze. He was beautiful, dangerously so. Dark hair, sharp jawline, eyes like black ice. He wore a simple black shirt, but something about him screamed wealth, power. The kind of man who didn't belong in economy class. The kind of man who could ruin you with a glance. He looked at her hand on his arm, then at her face, then down, at her pregnant belly. His expression didn't change. What happened? His voice was low, smooth, almost bored. Isabella tried to speak, but the pain choked her words. Her lips trembled. "Please," she whispered. "Save me. It hurts. It hurts so much." She barely got the words out. The man studied her for a long, cold moment. Then, impossibly, a slight smile curved his lips. Not kind, not cruel. Just amused. He leaned back in his seat, his gaze flicking to her belly again. "You're asking the wrong person," he said quietly. Isabella blinked through her tears, confused. "I don't save people," he continued, his tone casual, almost conversational. "I take lives. That's my job." Her breath hitched. "Even here," he added, glancing around the cabin with detached ease. "On this plane, I'm here to take a life, not save one." Isabella stared at him, her mind struggling to process his words through the fog of pain. He's a killer. But before she could pull away, before she could scream or cry or do anything, the world tilted. Her vision went black at the edges, and then she was falling. Marcus Aurelius moved fast. One moment, the girl was clutching his arm, her eyes wide with terror and pain. The next, she went limp, her body collapsing sideways. He caught her before she hit the floor. Of course. Her head lolled against his chest, her breathing shallow. Passengers around them started to notice. A flight attendant hurried over, her face tight with concern. "Sir, is she—" "She's pregnant," Marcus said flatly, adjusting the girl's weight in his arms. "And she just passed out." The attendant's eyes widened. "We need to get her to the front. There's more space." "No." Marcus's voice cut through the rising panic like a blade. "Clear this row, now." The attendant hesitated. Marcus looked at her. She moved. Within seconds, the seats around them were emptied. A blanket appeared. Pillows. Marcus laid the girl down across the seats, her head resting on his lap because there was nowhere else. Her face was pale. Too pale. Her lips slightly parted, her lashes wet with tears. She looked fragile. Marcus didn't do fragile. He reached down, brushing a strand of dark hair from her forehead. Her skin was clammy, feverish. "Why did you grab me?" he thought, staring at her unconscious face. "Of all the people on this plane." The flight attendant returned with a medical kit. "Sir, we've radioed ahead. There'll be an ambulance waiting when we land." Marcus nodded absently. His hand still rested on the girl's forehead. She stirred slightly, a soft whimper escaping her lips. "Shh," he murmured, his voice softer than he intended. "You're safe." "Liar," a voice whispered in his mind. "You just told her you're here to kill someone." He smirked at the irony, but he didn't move his hand. 20 minutes later, Isabella's eyes fluttered open. The first thing she saw was darkness. No, not darkness. A face, sharp, beautiful, familiar. The man. She was lying across the seats, her head in his lap. She tried to sit up, panic flaring. "Don't move." His hand pressed gently on her shoulder. "You passed out." Isabella's breath came fast. "My baby!" "Still there," Marcus said calmly. "You need to stay still." She stared up at him, her mind spinning. "Why are you helping me?" she whispered. "You said you don't save people." Marcus looked down at her, his expression unreadable. For a moment he didn't answer. Then softly, "Maybe I changed my mind." Isabella's heart pounded. Outside the window, clouds drifted past in silence, and somewhere in the back of the plane, a man with a briefcase checked his watch. Marcus's real target. But right now, all he could see was the girl in his arms, and the storm he'd just invited into his life. Marcus held her steady. Isabella's body trembled against him, her breathing uneven. She was awake now, but barely. Her eyes half closed, her lips moving soundlessly as if searching for words that wouldn't come. He looked down at her face. Really looked. She was young. Too young for this kind of pain. Her skin was pale, almost translucent under the cabin lights. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. But even in this broken state, there was something striking about her. A quiet beauty buried beneath exhaustion and fear. "Who are you?" The question flickered through his mind, unbidden. Then a voice in his ear. Sharp, urgent. The small earpiece hidden in his ear crackled to life. "Sir, we've located the target. He's 3 rows back, left side. Do I take him out? Do I finish this?" Marcus's jaw tightened. His hand, still resting on Isabella's shoulder, stilled. He glanced past her, toward the back of the plane. Somewhere in those rows sat the man he'd come to kill. A traitor. A loose end. Someone who'd sold secrets to the wrong people and thought a commercial flight would keep him safe. Fool. Marcus had killed men in quieter places than this. But now, he looked back at Isabella. Her eyes were open, staring at nothing. Her hand clutched her belly protectively, even in her dazed state. A sick patient. He exhaled slowly, his fingers brushing the hidden microphone in his watch. "No," he said, his voice low and controlled. "No bloodshed on this plane. Stand down." Silence on the other end. Then say, "Sir, you heard me." Marcus's tone left no room for argument. "There's a patient here. Complications. We wait." Another pause. "Understood." The line went dead. Marcus leaned back, his eyes fixed on the ceiling. His men would be confused. He never aborted a mission. Never. Lives were tools. Obstacles were removed. That was the rule. But right now, with this girl's head still resting near him, her breath shallow and desperate. "I can't." He didn't know why. And that irritated him more than anything. Marcus stood abruptly. The movement drew attention. A few heads turned, curious, wary. He didn't care. Let them look. Let them wonder. He was Marcus Aurelius, If they knew who he really was, half this plane would faint. But they didn't. To them, he was just another passenger. Rich, maybe. Handsome, certainly. But ordinary. Good. He caught the eye of a flight attendant. A young woman with nervous hands and a practiced smile. "You," he said, his voice calm but commanding. She hurried over. "Yes, sir?" Marcus gestured toward Isabella. "She's my relative. She's unwell. I need a doctor. Now." The attendant's eyes widened. "We have a medical kit, sir, but—" "Not a kit. A doctor." Marcus's gaze didn't waver. "There must be one on this flight." The attendant hesitated, then nodded quickly. "I'll check, sir." She disappeared down the aisle. Marcus crouched beside Isabella again. Her eyes fluttered open, searching for him. "Where—" her voice was a rasp. "Where am I?" "Still on the plane," Marcus said quietly. "You passed out." "My baby is fine. For now." He placed a hand on her forehead, still warm. Too warm. "But you need help." Isabella's eyes filled with tears again. I don't have anyone." Marcus studied her. No one. He understood that loneliness. More than she could ever know. "You have me," he said. The word surprised even him. Isabella blinked, confusion crossing her face. "Why? You said you don't save people." Marcus's lips curved into a faint, humorless smile. "Maybe I'm making an exception." Minutes later, a doctor appeared. An older man, silver-haired, with kind eyes and steady hands. He knelt beside Isabella, checking her pulse, her temperature, asking questions in a low, soothing voice. Marcus stood back, arms crossed, watching. The doctor glanced up at him. "How far along is she?" "I don't know," Marcus admitted. The doctor frowned, turning back to Isabella. "Miss, when is your due date?" Isabella's voice was weak. 2 weeks, maybe less. The doctor's expression tightened. He pressed gently on her abdomen, and Isabella winced. "She's in early labor," the doctor said, looking at Marcus. "She needs a hospital, soon." Marcus checked his watch. 30 minutes until landing. He nodded. "She'll have one." The doctor hesitated. "Sir, if the labor progresses too quickly, then we deal with it." Marcus's voice was steel. "But she'll be fine. Understood?" The doctor swallowed, then nodded. "Understood." Isabella drifted in and out of consciousness. Every time she woke, Marcus was there. Standing, watching, his presence oddly comforting. She didn't understand him. He'd said he was here to kill someone, that he didn't save people. But here he was, protecting her, making calls, giving orders. "Who are you?" she wanted to ask. But the pain kept dragging her under. Finally, the plane began its descent. The captain's voice crackled over the intercom, calm and professional, announcing their arrival. Marcus leaned down, his face close to Isabella's. "We're landing," he said softly. "Stay with me. Just a little longer." Isabella's hand found his. She squeezed. Weakly, but enough. Marcus's expression didn't change. But something flickered in his eyes. Something almost human. He squeezed back. As the plane touched down, Marcus stood, his gaze sweeping the cabin one last time. Somewhere in the rows behind him, his target sat, oblivious, thinking he'd escaped. He hadn't. But that kill could wait. Marcus looked down at Isabella, pale, trembling, but alive. And for the first time in years, he made a choice that had nothing to do with death. He exhaled slowly, a wry smile tugging at his lips. Once again, he murmured to himself in Urdu, his voice barely audible. "I've lost to a woman." He didn't know if it was defeat, or something worse, but as the paramedics boarded and carefully lifted Isabella onto a stretcher, Marcus followed. And somewhere in the chaos, a killer became a protector, even if just for one night. Isabella's eyes opened to white. White walls, white lights, the sterile smell of antiseptic, a hospital. Pain radiated through her body, dull, aching, but different now. Not the sharp, breaking agony from before. This was aftermath. She tried to move, but her limbs felt heavy, disconnected. Then she heard voices. Almost there. Steady, steady. Is she stable? Yes, doctor. Heart rate normal. Blood pressure stabilizing. Isabella blinked, her vision clearing. Figures in white coats moved around her. Medical equipment beeped softly. And then, a sharp, piercing cry. Her heart stopped. The baby. My baby, her voice cracked, barely a whisper. A nurse appeared beside her, smiling gently. Shh, don't strain yourself. You did beautifully. Where is... Your son is perfect, the nurse said, her voice warm. Healthy, strong. The doctor is checking him now. Son. Isabella's breath hitched. Tears blurred her vision. She had a son. A door opened. A tall man in a white coat entered, removing his gloves. He smiled at her, professional, polite. Congratulations, Mrs. Marcus, he said. You have a beautiful baby boy. Isabella froze. Mrs. What? The doctor's smile didn't falter. Mrs. Marcus, your husband is waiting outside. He's been very concerned. We'll take you to him shortly. Husband? Marcus? Isabella's mind spun. I'm not... But the doctor was already turning away, speaking to a nurse. Prepare her for discharge. Private transport is ready. Wait. Isabella tried to sit up, panic surging. My baby. I need to see my baby. He's being cleaned and dressed, the nurse said soothingly, gently pressing her back down. You'll see him soon. Rest now. No, I need... But the nurse was already walking away, and Isabella was left alone, staring at the ceiling, her heart pounding. What's happening? 20 minutes later, Isabella was in a car. Not just any car. A sleek black luxury vehicle with tinted windows and leather seats so soft they felt like clouds. The interior smelled of expensive cologne and danger. She lay in the back seat, still weak, a blanket draped over her. Her body ached, but her mind raced. Where is my baby? Who is Marcus? What's going on? The car moved smoothly through the city streets, silent except for the hum of the engine. Then a voice, low, familiar, cold. You're awake? Isabella turned her head. And there he was, the man from the plane, sitting in the front passenger seat, half turned toward her. His dark eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. Marcus Aurelius. Isabella's breath caught. What did you do? I saved you, Marcus said simply. You took my baby. Your baby is safe, Marcus interrupted, his tone calm. He's in another car, ahead of us. A pediatric nurse is with him. He'll be at the house before we arrive. House? What house? Isabella's voice shook. Who are you? Where are you taking me? Marcus leaned back, his gaze never leaving hers. You asked me to save you, he said quietly, on the plane. You grabbed my arm and begged, remember? Isabella's throat tightened. I didn't mean... You stopped me. His voice was soft, almost curious. You got in my way, and now... He paused. Now I'm not letting you go. Isabella's blood ran cold. What? Marcus turned fully, his expression unreadable. I have a weakness for beautiful things. I collect them. Keep them close. He tilted his head slightly, studying her. You're beautiful, he said, and so is your son. Isabella shook her head, tears stinging her eyes. You can't just... I can. Marcus's tone didn't change. And I have. The car turned onto a long tree-lined driveway. Isabella's heart hammered against her ribs. This is insane. Please, she whispered. Just let me go. I won't tell anyone. I'll disappear. You have nowhere to go, Marcus said, his voice oddly gentle. No mother, no husband, no money, no home. Isabella flinched. Because he was right. But now, Marcus continued, you have me. The car stopped. The house was a mansion. No, a palace. Tall iron gates. Manicured lawns. Marble steps leading to massive double doors. Everything gleamed under the soft glow of evening lights. Isabella stared, her breath shallow. Where am I? The car door opened. 2 men in black suits appeared, silent, efficient. They carefully lifted Isabella from the back seat, supporting her weight as if she were made of glass. Be careful, Marcus said from behind them. She's fragile. They carried her inside. The interior was even more breathtaking. High ceilings, crystal chandeliers, polished floors that reflected everything like mirrors. And everywhere, servants moved with quiet precision. Isabella was taken to a bedroom, enormous, luxurious. A bed the size of a small room draped in silk. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking gardens that stretched into darkness. The men set her down gently on the bed. "The doctors will be here shortly," one of them said in a low voice. "They'll check on you." "My baby," Isabella's voice broke. "Where is my baby?" "In the nursery," the man replied. "He's being cared for. You'll see him soon." Then they left. Isabella lay there, trembling. This can't be real. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. Voices, low, respectful. She caught fragments of conversation. "Boss wants her comfortable. Private doctors only. Don't let anyone near her without his permission." And then clearer. "Do you know who she is?" "No, but if he's keeping her here, she must be important. Or dangerous." A pause. Then quieter. "Do you think she knows who he is?" "The boss, Marcus Aurelius?" A low whistle. "If she doesn't, she will soon." Isabella's heart stopped. Marcus Aurelius. The name echoed in her mind. She'd heard it before. Whispered in dark corners. Mentioned in news reports that disappeared too quickly. Italy's most feared mafia boss. A man who controlled empires from the shadows. A man who didn't save people. He destroyed them. And now, she was in his house, with her newborn son. Isabella closed her eyes, tears sliding down her cheeks. What have I done? Hours later, a knock at the door. Isabella turned her head. Marcus entered. He'd changed clothes. A simple black shirt, sleeves rolled up. He looked ordinary, almost human. But his eyes were still cold. "How are you feeling?" he asked. Isabella didn't answer. Marcus crossed the room, stopping at the foot of her bed. "The doctors say you'll recover fully. You were lucky." "Lucky?" Isabella's voice was hoarse. "You kidnapped me." "I saved you," Marcus corrected, "and your son. I didn't ask for this." "You asked me to save you, I did." Isabella shook her head, her body trembling. "I want to leave." Marcus studied her for a long moment. Then he smiled. Faint, cold. "No," he said softly. "You don't." And with that he turned and walked out. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Isabella stared at the ceiling and realized she was trapped in a golden cage with a devil who thought he was saving her. One day passed like a dream, or a nightmare. Isabella couldn't tell anymore. The mansion was silent during the day. Servants moved like ghosts, appearing when needed, vanishing when not. Doctors came and went, checking her vitals, her recovery, her baby. Her son. She'd held him only twice. Each time her heart broke and healed simultaneously. He was perfect. Tiny fingers, dark hair, eyes that hadn't yet decided their color. Nathan's son. My son. But every time a nurse took him away, panic clawed at her throat. Where are they taking him? Will they bring him back? She was cared for, yes. Fed, bathed, given soft clothes and a bed fit for royalty. But she was still a prisoner, and Marcus Aurelius was the warden. Evening came. Isabella sat by the window, staring out at the gardens. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of blood and gold. Then, a crash, loud, violent, the sound of shattering glass. Isabella's head snapped toward the door. Then screaming, a woman's voice, high-pitched, furious. "Where is she?" Isabella's heart jumped into her throat. More crashes, something heavy hitting the floor. "How dare you bring her here?" Isabella stood shakily, her legs still weak. She moved toward the door, her pulse racing. What's happening? She opened the door a crack and froze. The grand hallway was chaos. A woman stood in the center of it all, tall, elegant, dressed in a designer gown that shimmered under the chandelier lights. Her hair was perfect, her makeup flawless. But her face was twisted with rage. She hurled a vase against the wall. It exploded into 1,000 pieces. Servants scattered, their heads bowed, their eyes averted. And there, at the far end of the hallway, leaning casually against a marble pillar, Marcus. He held a coffee cup in one hand. Steam rose lazily from it. He took a slow sip, completely unbothered. His eyes didn't even flicker toward the woman. "Are you finished?" he asked, his voice calm, almost bored. The woman whirled toward him, her chest heaving. "Finished? Finished?" She grabbed a plate from a nearby table and threw it. It shattered at Marcus's feet. He didn't flinch. Just took another sip of coffee. "You bring a whore into my house." The woman spat, her voice trembling with fury. "You bring her and a bastard child." "Careful," Marcus said softly. The single word cut through the air like a blade. The woman stopped, but only for a moment. Her eyes blazed. "Who is she, Marcus? Tell me. Who is this girl you brought here in the middle of the night? This child with a baby?" Marcus finally looked at her. His gaze was ice. "She's mine," he said simply. The woman's face went pale, then red, then pale again. "Yours?" Her voice cracked. "What does that mean?" Marcus set his coffee cup down on a side table. He straightened, his presence suddenly filling the space. "It means," he said quietly, "that she stays. And you don't question it." The woman's hands trembled. "I'm your wife." "In name only," Marcus interrupted. "Don't pretend otherwise." Silence, heavy, suffocating. Isabella pressed herself against the doorframe, her heart pounding so hard she thought it might burst. "Wife. He has a wife." The woman's eyes glistened with tears. Anger, humiliation, pain all mixed together. "Is the baby yours?" she whispered. Marcus didn't answer immediately. He just looked at her. Then slowly, deliberately, "Yes." Isabella's knees buckled. "What?" "No." The woman let out a strangled sob. "You're lying." "Believe what you want," Marcus said, his tone flat. "It doesn't change anything." The woman stared at him, her chest rising and falling rapidly. Then she turned, and for the first time she saw Isabella, standing in the doorway, pale, trembling, eyes wide with shock. The woman's face twisted into something ugly. "So that's her," she hissed. Isabella couldn't move. The woman took a step forward. You dare!" "Enough." Marcus's voice cracked like a whip. The woman stopped. Marcus crossed the hallway in 3 long strides, placing himself between Isabella and his wife. "Go to your wing," he said, his voice low and dangerous. "Now." The woman's eyes filled with tears, but beneath them, hatred, pure, burning hatred. She looked past Marcus, directly at Isabella. "Enjoy it while you can," she whispered, "because he destroys everything he touches." Then she turned and walked away, her heels clicking sharply against the marble floor. Silence fell. Isabella stood frozen, her mind reeling. Marcus turned toward her. His expression was unreadable. "You should be resting," he said. Isabella's voice came out as a whisper. You told her the baby is yours." "I did." "Why?" Marcus studied her for a long moment. "Because it's easier than the truth." "What truth?" Isabella's voice shook. "That you kidnapped me? That you're keeping me here against my will?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "That you have nowhere else to go." Isabella flinched. Because again he was right. Marcus stepped closer. "Go back to your room, Isabella. Don't tell me what to do. Go back to your room." His voice was steel. Isabella's breath hitched, but she didn't move. Then, "Papa?" Both of them froze. Isabella turned. A small boy stood at the end of the hallway, 4 years old maybe, dark hair, wide, curious eyes. He wore pajamas with little cars on them. He looked at Marcus, then at Isabella. "Papa, why is everyone yelling?" the boy asked softly. Isabella's heart stopped. "Papa, he has a son." Marcus's expression softened, just a fraction. He walked toward the boy, crouching down to his level. "It's nothing, Dante," Marcus said quietly. "Go back to bed." The boy, Dante, tilted his head. "Who is she?" He pointed at Isabella. Marcus glanced back at her, then at his son. "A guest," he said simply. "Is she staying?" Marcus paused. "Then yes." Dante nodded, accepting this without question. He looked at Isabella again, his gaze innocent and piercing all at once. "She's pretty," he said. Then he turned and padded back down the hallway, disappearing into the shadows. Isabella stood there, shaking. A wife. A son. A family. And she was what? A prisoner? A lie. A beautiful thing he'd decided to keep. Marcus straightened, turning back to her. Now you know, he said quietly. Know what? Isabella's voice was hollow. That this house is full of ghosts. He stepped closer, his gaze locked on hers. And you're just another one. Isabella's vision blurred with tears, but she refused to let them fall. I want to leave, she whispered. Marcus's expression didn't change. You can't. Why? He leaned in, so close she could feel his breath. Because, he murmured, I'm not done with you yet. Then he walked away, leaving Isabella standing alone in the hallway, surrounded by shattered glass, and the echo of a child's voice. She's pretty. Isabella closed her eyes. The sound of shattering porcelain echoed through the study. How many years have you worked here? Marcus's voice was low. The maid standing before him trembled, her head bowed. For 5 years, sir. 5 years. Marcus set the coffee cup down, what was left of it. Dark liquid pooled across his desk. And you still haven't learned to make decent coffee? I'm sorry, sir. Get out. The maid fled. Marcus pressed his fingers against his temples. His head throbbed, sharp, relentless pain that pulsed behind his eyes. Not now. He'd dealt with a problem tonight. A rival family trying to push into his territory. It had gotten messy. Blood still stained his shirt collar. He'd washed his hands, changed his jacket, but the stain remained. A dark reminder of what he was. A killer. He exhaled slowly, trying to steady himself. Another knock at the door. Enter. A different servant appeared, young, nervous. He carried a tray with a fresh cup of coffee. Sir, I made this myself, I thought. Marcus took the cup without a word. One sip. He set it down. Leave. The servant's face fell. He hurried out, closing the door softly behind him. Marcus stared at the cup. Useless. His headache worsened. The walls felt too close, the air too thick. He needed... what? Silence, peace, something he hadn't felt in years. He leaned back in his chair, closing his eyes. Isabella stood outside the study door. She'd heard everything. The shouts, the breaking porcelain, Marcus's cold, controlled fury. She shouldn't care. He was her captor. The man who'd trapped her in this gilded prison. But he's in pain. She'd seen it earlier when he'd returned to the mansion. The tightness around his eyes. The way he moved. Stiff, controlled, like every step hurt. And the blood. She'd seen that too. What kind of man is he? She didn't know. But right now, in this moment, he was just a man with a headache. And she knew how to help. The kitchen was enormous. Marble countertops. State-of-the-art appliances. Everything gleamed under soft lighting. A few servants glanced at her nervously as she entered. Miss Isabella? One of them started. I need to make coffee, Isabella said quietly. The servants exchanged glances. We can do that for you. No. Isabella moved toward the coffee machine. I'll do it myself. They hesitated, then stepped back, watching. Isabella's hands moved with practiced ease. She'd worked in a cafe during university. Before Nathan, before the pregnancy, before everything fell apart. She knew coffee, freshly ground beans, the right water temperature, the perfect timing. She poured the dark liquid into a clean mug, the rich aroma filling the air. One of the servants whispered, He won't like it, he never does. Isabella didn't respond. She just lifted the mug and walked out. The study door was closed. Isabella stood before it, her heart pounding. What am I doing? She could turn back, return to her room, stay invisible. But her hand was already rising. She knocked. Silence. Then, I said leave me alone. Isabella opened the door anyway. Marcus looked up, irritation flashing across his face. I don't... He stopped. Isabella stood in the doorway, holding the mug. I made you coffee, she said softly. Marcus stared at her. For a long moment, neither of them moved. Then slowly, Marcus leaned back in his chair. I don't need... You do. Isabella stepped inside, closing the door behind her. Your head hurts. You haven't had decent coffee all night. And you think you can do better? Yes. The confidence in her voice surprised even her. Marcus's eyes narrowed, but he didn't refuse. Isabella crossed the room, setting the mug on his desk, carefully, away from the spilled coffee and scattered papers. Marcus looked at it, then at her. "Why?" he asked quietly. Isabella hesitated. "Because you're in pain." "I'm always in pain." "Then this won't make it worse." Something flickered in Marcus's eyes. Amusement? Curiosity? He reached for the mug, lifted it, took a sip. The silence stretched. Marcus's expression didn't change. But he took another sip. Then another. Isabella held her breath. Finally, Marcus set the mug down. He looked up at her. "It's good," he said simply. Relief flooded through her. But Marcus's gaze remained steady, unreadable. "Where did you learn to make coffee like this?" "I used to work in a cafe," Isabella admitted. "Before..." She trailed off. "Before my life fell apart." Marcus studied her. "Sit." "What?" "Sit down, Isabella." She hesitated, then lowered herself into the chair across from his desk. Marcus leaned forward, his elbows resting on the desk, his eyes locked on hers. "When you're recovered," he said quietly, "I'll take you somewhere. A house, safe, quiet." Isabella's breath caught. "You mean..." "You can leave." His voice was calm, final. "Go wherever you want. Start over." Hope flared in her chest, painful, desperate. "Really?" Marcus nodded. "But you need to promise me something." "What?" He leaned closer. "Don't ask strangers for help again," he said, his voice soft, but edged with something darker. "Not everyone will be as generous as I was." Isabella's hope faltered. Generous? He'd kidnapped her, lied about her baby, trapped her in his mansion, but he was also letting her go. She didn't know what to say. Marcus picked up the coffee mug again, taking another slow sip. "You should rest," he said, his tone dismissive now. "You're still recovering." Isabella stood shakily. She wanted to say something, thank you maybe, or curse him, or ask why he'd kept her here at all. But the words stuck in her throat, so she just turned and walked toward the door. "Isabella." She stopped, glancing back. Marcus held up the mug. "This," he said, "was the best coffee I've had in years." Their eyes met, and for just a moment, he looked almost human. Isabella nodded silently. Then she left. Back in her room, Isabella sank onto the bed. Her hands were shaking. "He's letting me go." She should feel relieved, grateful. But all she felt was confused, because the man who'd said he only took lives had just given hers back, and she didn't understand why. Outside, the night stretched on, and in his study, Marcus sat alone, staring at the empty coffee mug, wondering why he'd just made the stupidest decision of his life. Isabella couldn't sleep. Guilt gnawed at her chest, relentless and suffocating. "This is my fault." She lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, replaying the scene from earlier. The wife's fury, the shattered vases, the hatred in her eyes. A marriage destroyed because of me. No, not because of her. Because Marcus had brought her here. Because he'd lied. But still, I'm the reason they're fighting. She turned onto her side, pulling the blanket tighter around herself. In the nursery next door, her son slept peacefully, unaware of the chaos surrounding him. I have to leave. The thought solidified in her mind. I have to fix this. Morning came too quickly. Isabella stood by the window, watching as Marcus's car disappeared down the driveway. He was dressed in a dark suit, his expression unreadable as always. Where is he going? She didn't know, and she didn't care. This is my chance. Her heart pounded as she formulated a plan. I'll talk to his wife, apologize, explain that I didn't want any of this. Maybe she'll give me some money, enough to leave, to start over. It was desperate, but desperation was all she had left. Isabella found a servant in the hallway. "Excuse me," she said softly. Where is the lady of the house?" The servant, a young woman with kind eyes, looked surprised. "Mrs. Aurelius?" Isabella nodded. The servant hesitated. "She's not in the main house, miss. She went to the old estate, in the back." "The old estate?" "Yes, it's Quieter there. She goes often. For peace. Peace. Isabella's chest tightened. Of course she needs peace. Her husband brought another woman into her home. Can you show me how to get there? Isabella asked. The servant looked uncertain. Miss, I don't think... Please. Something in Isabella's voice made the servant relent. Follow the stone path behind the gardens, she said quietly. You'll see it. But be careful, miss. Isabella didn't ask what she meant. She just nodded and walked away. The old estate was smaller than the main mansion, but still beautiful. Ivy climbed the walls. Tall windows reflected the morning sun. Everything about it felt forgotten. Quiet. Isabella's footsteps crunched on the gravel path as she approached. The front door was slightly ajar. She hesitated. Should I knock? But before she could decide, a sound. Laughter. Soft, breathy, intimate. Isabella's stomach twisted. What? She pushed the door open slowly. The hallway was dim. Dust motes floated in the shafts of sunlight. The laughter came from upstairs. Isabella climbed the stairs, her heart hammering. This is a bad idea. Turn back. But her feet kept moving. She reached the top. A door stood open at the end of the hallway. Isabella approached and looked inside. She froze. The room was a bedroom. Elegant, old-fashioned, a large bed in the center. And on that bed, Marcus's wife. And a man, not Marcus. Younger, handsome. His shirt unbuttoned, her dress half off. They were tangled together, lips locked, hands everywhere. Isabella's breath caught in her throat. Oh God. She tried to step back, but her shoe scraped against the floor. The sound echoed. The wife's head snapped up. Their eyes met. For a frozen moment, no one moved. Then, you! The wife scrambled off the bed, her face contorted with rage and panic. The man beside her looked confused, alarmed. What the hell? He started, but the wife was already moving. She lunged toward Isabella. You followed me? No, I didn't. Isabella stumbled backward into the hallway. You're spying on me? The wife's voice was shrill, hysterical. I wasn't, I swear. The wife grabbed Isabella's arm, her nails digging into skin. How dare you! She screamed. You come into my house, seduce my husband, and now you spy on me? Please. Isabella tried to pull away, but the woman's grip was iron. The man appeared in the doorway, hastily buttoning his shirt. Vittoria, wait! Get out! Vittoria shrieked at him. He fled. Vittoria turned back to Isabella, her eyes blazing. You think you're so special? She hissed. You think Marcus cares about you? I never. He brought you here to humiliate me. Vittoria's voice cracked. To parade his whore in front of me. I'm not his... Slap. The sound echoed through the hallway. Isabella's head snapped to the side, pain exploding across her cheek. Tears sprang to her eyes. How dare you come here? Vittoria whispered, her voice venomous. How dare you exist? She grabbed Isabella's hair. Isabella cried out. No, please. But Vittoria was already dragging her toward the stairs. You want to leave so badly? Vittoria snarled. Fine, leave! Isabella stumbled, trying to keep her balance as Vittoria hauled her down the stairs. Stop, please, my baby. You're a bastard, Vittoria spat. Take him and get out. They reached the front door. Vittoria shoved Isabella outside. Isabella fell onto the gravel, her hands scraping against the stones. Wait, but Vittoria was already gone, storming back inside. Moments later, she reappeared, holding Isabella's son. The baby was crying, his tiny face red and scrunched up. No! Isabella scrambled to her feet. Don't hurt him, please. Vittoria thrust the baby at her. Isabella caught him, clutching him to her chest. Get out. Vittoria's voice was ice. If I see you again, I'll kill you myself. But I have nowhere. Not my problem. The door slammed shut. Isabella stood there, trembling, her baby wailing in her arms, alone, outside the gates of a mansion that was never hers. She started walking. Her legs shook, her cheek throbbed, her baby cried. But she walked, down the long driveway, past the iron gates, onto the road. Where am I going? She didn't know. What will I do? She didn't know. All she knew was, She was alone again. Just like before, hours later, Isabella sat on a bench in a small park. Her son had finally stopped crying, exhausted. He slept against her chest, his tiny breaths warm and steady. Isabella stared at nothing. I have no money. No phone. No one. The sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. Beautiful, empty, like her. She closed her eyes and wondered if this was how her story ended. Not with love, not with hope, just silence. Somewhere across the city, Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. A message from one of his men. "Sir, your wife threw the girl out. She's gone." Marcus's jaw tightened. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the floor. "Find her," he said into his phone. "Now." "Sir? Find Isabella." His voice was steel. "And bring her back." "But your wife—" "I don't care about my wife." Silence on the other end. Then, understood. Marcus hung up and stared out the window at the darkening sky. "Where are you, Isabella?" The world blurred around her. Isabella walked without direction, without purpose, just walked. Her son whimpered against her chest, his tiny fists curling and uncurling. He's hungry. The thought pierced through her exhaustion. I have no milk, no formula, no money. Her feet ached, her body screamed for rest. But she couldn't stop. If I stop, I'll collapse. And then what? The streets stretched endlessly. Shops closed for the evening. People hurried past, their eyes sliding over her as if she didn't exist. Invisible. She'd become a ghost. Again, hours passed, or maybe minutes. Isabella couldn't tell anymore. The sky darkened. Streetlights flickered on. Her son began to cry, a high, desperate wail that cut through her heart. "Shh, baby, please." Her voice cracked. I know you're hungry. Just a little longer." But longer until what? She had no plan, no destination. "I'm going to die out here. We're both going to die." The thought should have terrified her. Instead, she felt numb, then a prickling sensation on the back of her neck. Someone's watching. Isabella glanced over her shoulder. Nothing, just shadows and empty streets. But the feeling didn't go away. She walked faster, clutching her baby tighter. Paranoia, you're just paranoid. But her instincts screamed otherwise. "Excuse me, madam?" Isabella spun around. A young man stood a few feet away. Early 20s, clean-shaven, friendly smile. He wore jeans and a leather jacket. Normal, harmless. So why did her skin crawl? "I'm sorry," the man said, stepping closer. "I didn't mean to startle you, but are you all right?" Isabella backed up. "I'm fine." "You don't look fine." His eyes flicked to the baby in her arms. "You look like you're in trouble." "I'm not—" "It's okay." He held up his hands, palms out. "I'm not trying to scare you, I saw you walking, for a long time, with a baby, and I thought, maybe you need help?" Isabella's throat tightened. "Help! God, I need help." But something felt wrong. "I'm fine," she repeated, her voice firmer. "Thank you." She turned to walk away. "Wait." The man jogged to catch up with her. "Please, just listen. There's a shelter, not far from here, for women. Women with nowhere to go." Isabella stopped. "A shelter." She turned slowly. "A shelter?" The man nodded, his expression earnest. "Yeah, it's safe, clean. They help women who are in situations like yours." Isabella's heart pounded. "How do you know about it?" "My sister volunteers there," he said smoothly. "I drop her off sometimes. Look, I have a taxi right over there." He pointed to a car parked at the curb. "I can take you. No charge. I want to help." Isabella stared at him. Is he telling the truth? Or is this a trap? Her son wailed louder. "I don't have a choice." "Okay," she whispered. The taxi was old but clean. Isabella climbed into the back seat, cradling her baby. The man slid into the driver's seat, starting the engine. "Don't worry," he said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. "You'll be safe there. They'll take care of you." Isabella nodded mutely. The car pulled away from the curb. The drive felt endless. The man made small talk, asking harmless questions, chatting about the weather. But Isabella barely heard him. She watched the streets pass by, her unease growing with every turn. Where is he taking me? The buildings changed. Nicer at first, then. Seedier. Darker. This doesn't feel right. How much farther? Isabella asked, her voice tight. Not long now, the man said cheerfully. But his eyes in the mirror, they weren't kind anymore. They were hungry. The car stopped. Isabella looked out the window. They were parked in front of a building. Tall. Narrow. Neon lights flickered above the entrance, though half of them were burned out. It looked like a hotel, not a shelter. Isabella's blood ran cold. This is it, the man said, turning in his seat. Come on, let's get you inside. This isn't a shelter. Isabella's voice shook. The man's smile widened. It is. Sort of. A shelter for women who need work. Isabella's stomach dropped. No. Oh God, no. I'm not getting out, she said, clutching her baby. The man's smile faded. Don't be difficult. You need help, right? This place will help you. They'll give you a room, food, money. In exchange for what? Isabella's voice rose. The man's eyes hardened. In exchange for doing what women like you do best. Isabella's breath came in short gasps. He's trafficking. This is a trafficking ring. Let me out. Her voice was steel now. Let me out of this car. Now. The man sighed. Listen, sweetheart. I said let me out. She lunged for the door handle. Locked. The man laughed. Don't make this harder than it needs to be. Isabella's vision blurred with panic. No. She hammered on the window. Help! Someone help! The man reached back, grabbing her wrist. Shut up. Isabella bit him. Hard. He screamed, yanking his hand back. Isabella kicked at the door, again. The lock clicked. She shoved the door open and tumbled out onto the pavement. Her baby clutched to her chest. You bitch! The man scrambled out of the car. Isabella ran. Her legs burned. Her lungs screamed. But she ran. Down the street, into an alley, anywhere but here. Footsteps pounded behind her. You can't run forever, the man shouted. Isabella's vision swam with tears. I can't outrun him. Not with the baby. She turned a corner and slammed into something solid. A wall. No, a person. Isabella looked up and froze. Marcus. He stood there, immaculate in his black suit, his expression unreadable. Behind him, 3 men, large, armed. Marcus's eyes flicked past her. To the man chasing her. The man skidded to a stop, his face going pale. Oh shit. Marcus didn't say a word. He just tilted his head, and his men moved. Isabella didn't see what happened. She buried her face in her baby's hair, squeezing her eyes shut. But she heard it. The screams, the sickening thuds, the silence. Isabella. Marcus's voice, soft, almost gentle. She looked up. He stood before her, his suit spotless, his expression calm. As if he hadn't just ordered a man's death. You're safe now, he said quietly. Isabella's legs gave out. Marcus caught her. And for the second time, she fell into the arms of a killer, and wondered if she'd ever escape. Isabella waited. The lobby, if it could even be called that, was dim and narrow. Peeling wallpaper, flickering lights, a smell she couldn't quite place. This isn't a shelter. Every instinct screamed at her to run, but where? Her son had finally quieted, exhausted from crying. He lay against her chest, his tiny body warm and trusting. For him, I'm doing this for him. She tried to steady her breathing. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe this is legitimate. But the doubt gnawed at her. Footsteps on the stairs. The young man reappeared, smiling that same friendly smile. Good news, he said. The manager says you can stay, free of charge, at least for tonight. Isabella's grip on her baby tightened. Where is he? I'd like to speak to him. He's busy right now. But don't worry, I'll show you to your room. You can rest. We'll sort everything out in the morning. Morning. I just need to survive until morning. Isabella nodded slowly. Okay. They climbed the stairs. 2nd floor, 3rd floor. The building felt endless. each hallway darker than the last. Too many floors for a shelter. Too quiet. The man stopped in front of a door. Room 308. He pulled out a key, unlocking it. "Here you go," he said, pushing the door open. "It's not much, but it's clean. There's a bed, a bathroom." Isabella peered inside. The room was small, a single bed, a cracked mirror, a window with bars. Bars. Her stomach twisted. "Why are there bars on the window?" she asked quietly. The man's smile didn't falter. "Security. Keeps bad people out. Or good people in." But Isabella didn't say it. She stepped inside, her legs shaking. "Thank you," she whispered. "No problem." The man backed toward the door. "Get some rest. I'll check on you in the morning." He closed the door, and Isabella heard it. Click! The sound of a lock. From the outside. Isabella's heart stopped. She lunged for the door, grabbing the handle. Locked. "Wait!" She pounded on the door. "Wait! Why did you lock it?" No answer. "Hello?" Her voice rose. "Why is the door locked?" Silence. Isabella's breath came in short gasps. "No, no, no." She pounded harder. "Let me out, please!" Nothing. Outside the door, the young man pulled out his phone. He dialed. 1 ring, 2. Then a voice, cold, smooth. "Do you have her?" The young man smiled. "Yeah, I got her." "You're sure it's the same girl?" "Positive. I saw her with Marcus Aurelius myself, at the airport. She was sitting next to him, and he carried her off the plane like she was his goddamn queen." A pause. "Then interesting? So what do you want me to do with her?" Another pause. Longer this time. "Keep her there, don't touch her, don't hurt her, not yet." "And the baby?" "The baby too." The young man's smile widened. "Marcus is going to lose his mind when he finds out." "That's the point." The voice on the other end was almost amused. "Italy's most dangerous man, untouchable, unstoppable." A dark laugh. "Until now." The line went dead. The young man pocketed his phone and walked down the hallway, whistling. Inside the room, Isabella collapsed against the door. Her baby started crying again, hungry, confused, scared. "I know, baby, I know." Isabella's voice cracked. "I'm so sorry." She sank to the floor, clutching him. How did this happen? How did I end up here? She thought of Marcus. His cold eyes, his dangerous smile. He said I could leave. He said I was free, and she'd believed him. Now she was trapped. Again, hours passed. Isabella tried everything. She pounded on the door until her hands bled. She screamed until her voice gave out. She tried the window, but the bars were solid, immovable. No one came. No one answered. Finally, exhausted, she sat on the bed. Her son had cried himself to sleep. She held him close, rocking gently. What are they going to do to us? The question looped endlessly in her mind. Who was that man? Why did he bring me here? What does he want? And then a worse thought. Does Marcus even know I'm gone? Does he care? She remembered his words. When you're recovered, I'll take you somewhere. You can leave. He'd sounded sincere, but maybe it was all a lie. Maybe he never cared at all. Somewhere across the city, Marcus's phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen. A message from one of his men. Sir, we found her trail. She was picked up by a man in a taxi. We're tracking the vehicle now. Marcus's jaw tightened. How long ago? 3 hours. 3 hours. Too long. Find her, Marcus said, his voice ice. Now. He hung up and stared out the window at the city lights. Where are you, Isabella? And who took you? Back in the locked room, Isabella stared at the door. Her mind raced. I have to get out. I have to survive. For my baby. She stood, her legs trembling, and began searching the room for anything she could use. Outside footsteps echoed in the hallway. Voices. Low, conspiratorial. When do we move her? Tomorrow, once the boss confirms. And if Marcus finds her first? A pause. Then a laugh. He won't. The footsteps faded, and Isabella stood frozen in the center of the room, realizing she wasn't just trapped. She was bait. Time had no meaning in that room. Isabella didn't know if hours had passed, or days. Her baby slept fitfully in her arms. She hadn't eaten, hadn't slept, just waited. For what? She didn't know. but the dread in her chest told her it was nothing good. Then, footsteps, heavy, deliberate. Isabella's head snapped toward the door. Someone's coming. She stood, backing against the wall, clutching her baby. The lock clicked. The door swung open, and a man stepped inside. He was tall, broad-shouldered, mid-40s maybe, expensive suit, cold eyes. He looked at Isabella the way a predator looks at prey. Isabella's blood turned to ice. "Well, well," the man said, his voice smooth. "You're even prettier up close." Isabella pressed herself harder against the wall. "Who are you?" The man smiled. "That doesn't matter." He stepped closer. Isabella's breath quickened. "Stay away from me." "Or what?" The man's smile widened. "You'll scream? Go ahead. No one's coming to save you." "Please," Isabella's voice shook. "I have a baby." "I can see that." His eyes flicked to the infant in her arms. "Don't worry. I won't hurt the kid." "Just me." The unspoken words hung in the air. Isabella's vision blurred with tears. "Please, I'll do anything, just don't—" "Anything?" The man laughed. "That's exactly what I'm counting on." He reached for her. Isabella twisted away, but there was nowhere to go. His hand closed around her wrist. "No!" The door opened again. The young man from before appeared in the doorway. "Sir," he said, his voice casual. "Before you, get started, can we settle payment?" The older man released Isabella, irritation flashing across his face. "Now? Just want to make sure we're square." The young man grinned. "You understand." The older man sighed, pulling out a wallet. "Fine." He counted out bills, handed them over. The young man counted them, nodded. "Pleasure doing business." He left. The door closed. The lock clicked. The man turned back to Isabella. His smile returned. "Now," he said softly, "where were we?" He moved toward her. Isabella backed up until her spine hit the wall. "Please," she whispered, "please don't." "Shh." He reached out, his fingers brushing her cheek. Isabella flinched. "Don't make this difficult," he murmured. "It'll be over soon." His hand moved to her throat. Isabella's eyes squeezed shut. "This is how it ends. This is how I die." Bang. The door exploded inward. Wood splintered, the lock shattered. Isabella's eyes flew open. And there, in the doorway, was Marcus. He looked like death incarnate. His suit was immaculate, his expression calm, but his eyes were fire. The older man spun around, his face going pale. "Aurelius—" Marcus didn't speak. He just moved. Fast. Too fast. His fist connected with the man's jaw. The crack echoed through the room. The man staggered back, blood spraying from his mouth. Marcus grabbed him by the collar, slamming him against the wall. "You touched her," Marcus said quietly. His voice was soft. Terrifying. I wasn't, the man choked on his words. Marcus's grip tightened. "You touched her. It was just business." "Business?" Marcus's smile was cold, deadly. "You made a mistake." He pulled the man forward, then slammed him back into the wall. Again, and again, and again. The man's head cracked against the plaster. Blood smeared the wall. "She's mine," Marcus hissed. "Do you understand? Mine." Okay, I'm sorry." Sorry isn't enough. Marcus threw the man to the floor. The man scrambled backward, his face a mask of terror. "Please, Aurelius, I didn't know—" "You knew exactly what you were doing." Marcus crouched down, his face inches from the man's. "You wanted to hurt me, by taking what's mine." He tilted his head. "Congratulations, you succeeded." Then he stood, and pulled out a gun. "No," the man raised his hands. "Wait, please." Marcus aimed. "Marcus." The voice was soft. Broken. "Isabella." Marcus's hand stilled. He didn't lower the gun, but he looked at her. Isabella stood against the wall, trembling. Her baby clutched to her chest, tears streaming down her face. "Please," she whispered, "not in front of my son." Marcus stared at her, for a long frozen moment. Then he lowered the gun. "Get out," he said to the man on the floor. The man blinked. "What?" "Get out!" The man didn't need to be told twice. He scrambled to his feet and bolted from the room. Silence. Marcus turned to Isabella. She was shaking so hard she could barely stand. "Are you hurt?" His voice was different now, softer. Isabella shook her head. "Did he touch you?" She hesitated. He tried." Marcus's jaw clenched. "Where?" "My wrist. My face." Her voice broke. "But he didn't get to—" "Good." Marcus crossed the room in 2 strides. He reached for her. Isabella flinched. Marcus stopped. His hand hovered in the air between them. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. Isabella's eyes filled with tears. "Everyone hurts me." Something flickered in Marcus's expression. "Pain, not me," he said softly. Then gently, so gently, he took her by the arm. "Come on," he murmured. "Let's get you out of here." Outside, 3 of Marcus's men waited. One of them held the young man who'd lured Isabella here. The kid's face was bruised, bleeding. "This him?" Marcus asked, his voice flat. "Yes, sir." Marcus looked at the young man. The kid swallowed hard. "Boss, I didn't know she was yours, I swear." "You saw her with me," Marcus said quietly, "at the airport." Yeah, but I didn't think—" "You didn't think?" Marcus stepped closer. "That's the problem." He glanced at his men. "Take him to the warehouse." The young man's eyes widened. "No, please, boss." Marcus ignored him. He turned back to Isabella. She stood there, pale and shaking, holding her baby. "Let's go home," Marcus said gently. Isabella's voice was hollow. "I don't have a home." Marcus looked at her. Then softly, "Yes, you do." He led her to his car. And as they drove away, Isabella realized something. She was terrified of Marcus. But she was more terrified of a world without him. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. The mansion felt different when they returned. Quieter, emptier. Isabella sat in the same grand bedroom she'd occupied before. But this time, she wasn't a prisoner. Or maybe she was. She couldn't tell anymore. Her son slept peacefully in the nursery next door, finally fed, finally clean. The doctors had checked them both. No injuries, no harm done. Physically. But inside, Isabella felt shattered. A knock at the door. "Come in," she said softly. Marcus entered. He'd changed clothes. A simple black shirt, no jacket. He looked almost human. He stood at the threshold as if waiting for permission. "May I?" he asked. Isabella nodded. Marcus crossed the room slowly, stopping a few feet from her. For a moment, neither spoke. Then, "I'm sorry," Marcus said quietly. Isabella's head lifted. "For what?" "For letting you leave." His voice was tight, controlled. "For not protecting you when you walked out that door." "You told me I could go," Isabella whispered. "I know." Marcus exhaled. I thought it was the right thing to do." "And now?" Marcus met her eyes. "Now I know I was wrong." Isabella's breath caught. Marcus stepped closer. "When I found out you were gone, when I realized someone had taken you—" He stopped. His jaw clenched. "I've killed many people, Isabella, for money, for power, for revenge." His voice dropped. "But tonight I wanted to burn the entire city down just to find you." Isabella's heart pounded. "Why?" she whispered. Marcus looked at her. Really looked. "Because you're mine," he said simply. Isabella shook her head. "I'm not a thing you can own." "I know." Marcus's voice softened. "But you're still mine, and I'm yours, whether we like it or not." Tears blurred Isabella's vision. "I don't understand you." "I don't understand myself," Marcus admitted. "Not when it comes to you." He moved to the window, staring out at the dark gardens. "My wife," he said quietly. "Vittoria, I caught her." Isabella's breath hitched. "Caught her?" "With her lover." Marcus's tone was flat, emotionless. "Not the first time. Probably not even the 10th. But this time, I had proof." He turned back to Isabella. "I gave her a divorce," he said. "Today, she's gone." Isabella stared. "Just like that?" "Just like that." "But your son?" "Dante." Marcus's expression softened at the mention of his child. "He's the only good thing that came from that marriage." He paused. "I didn't want to divorce her. Not at first. I thought a child needed both parents, even bad ones. And now? Marcus looked at Isabella. Now I think a child needs love, he said softly. Real love, not pretense, not lies. Isabella's throat tightened. Marcus stepped closer. You're a mother, he said quietly. You understand what it means to protect a child, to love unconditionally. Yes, Isabella whispered. Dante needs that. Marcus's voice was raw, vulnerable. He needs someone who can teach him what real love looks like, not the poison his mother and I gave him. Isabella's heart ached. What are you saying? She asked. Marcus reached out, slowly, giving her time to pull away. But she didn't. His hand closed around hers. Warm, strong, steady. Stay, he said simply. Isabella's breath shook. Marcus. Not as a prisoner, not as a secret. His thumb brushed over her knuckles. Stay as whatever you want to be. I don't know what I want, Isabella admitted. Then figure it out, Marcus said. Here, with me, with Dante, with your son. He pulled her closer. I can give you safety, stability, a home for your baby. And what do you get? Isabella's voice trembled. Marcus smiled, a real smile. Small, but real. Peace, he said softly. For the first time in my life, peace. Isabella looked down at their joined hands. This is insane. He was a killer, a criminal, a man who'd kidnapped her. But he was also the man who'd saved her, twice. The man who looked at her like she was worth protecting. The man who'd burned down half the city to find her. Maybe that's not love. Maybe it's obsession. But right now, with her son safe, with a roof over her head, with someone's hand holding hers, it felt like salvation. Okay, Isabella whispered. Marcus's eyes widened. Okay, I'll stay. She looked up at him. But not as yours. Not yet. Then as what? Isabella thought for a moment. As partners, she said softly. We help each other. You give me safety. I give Dante love. A real home. Marcus studied her, then nodded. Partners, he repeated. He lifted her hand to his lips, kissed it gently. I can work with that. Weeks passed. Isabella healed. Her body, her heart. She spent her days caring for her son, who grew stronger every day. And Dante, Marcus's shy, sweet 4-year-old, who slowly warmed to her. He'd climb into her lap while she read stories, hold her hand in the gardens, call her Bella in his small, tentative voice. And something inside Isabella softened. This is what family feels like. Marcus watched from a distance, never pushing, never demanding. Just there, at breakfast, at dinner, in quiet moments when their eyes met across the room. And slowly, so slowly, the walls between them crumbled. One evening, Isabella found Marcus in his study. He looked up, surprised. Everything okay? He asked. Yes. Isabella stepped inside, closing the door. I just wanted to talk. Marcus set down his pen. About? Isabella crossed the room, stood before his desk. About us, she said softly. Marcus's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. What about us? Isabella took a breath. I was scared of you, she admitted. Terrified. I thought you were a monster. I am, Marcus said quietly. Maybe. Isabella smiled faintly. But you're also the man who held my hand when I was broken, who protected my son, who gave Dante a chance at a real childhood. She paused. You're both, she said, monster and man, and I think I'm okay with that. Marcus stood slowly. He rounded the desk, stopped in front of her. What are you saying, Isabella? She looked up at him. I'm saying, she swallowed. I'm saying I want to try, really try, not as partners, but as something more. Marcus's breath hitched. You don't have to. I know. Isabella reached up, her hand cupping his cheek. But I want to. For a long moment, they just stared at each other. Then, Marcus leaned down and kissed her. Soft, gentle, reverent. Like she was something precious. Something worth saving. And for the first time in so long, Isabella felt whole. Months later, the mansion was filled with laughter. Dante chased Isabella's son, now a toddler, through the gardens, both of them giggling. Isabella watched from the terrace, a smile on her face. Marcus appeared beside her, 2 cups of coffee in hand. "Thought you might need this," he said. Isabella took the cup. "Perfect." They stood in comfortable silence, watching their children play. "I never thought I'd have this," Marcus said quietly. "What?" "A family." He looked at her. "A real one." Isabella leaned into him. "Me neither." Marcus wrapped his arm around her. "Thank you," he murmured. "For what?" "For staying." He kissed her temple. "For giving me a reason to be more than a monster." Isabella smiled. "You were always more," she said softly. "You just needed someone to see it." And as the sun set over the Italian hills, a killer and a broken girl found something neither thought possible: home.